too, you fucking nasty.
What's going on YouTube? This is going to be a video on my Nitro Sport, and what I'm doing with this truck is essentially making it a viable race vehicle. Our track is trying to reignite interest in Nitro Stadium. It used to be a huge class back in the day. I'm going to throw some upgrades at it. Not going to go too crazy, I just want to make it a functional race vehicle. So I'll show you some of the quick simple things I've done already. We'll talk a little bit about some of the modifications I've made and then my plans moving forward. So the modifications I've made already are, the biggest one is the aluminum chassis for the Nitro Rustler. I had that installed. If you want to know more information on upgrading the chassis, I just posted a video showing everything that goes into doing a chassis swap on this vehicle. So the other benefit to doing the chassis swap is you have to replace this upper deck, which comes with a steering rack, opposed to the just have a servo on top, and it just runs down to the servo saver, and then your steering links come directly off the servo saver rather than running to a rack. The benefit to the rack is it improves the geometry of the suspension, so as the suspension compresses and raises, it keeps the steering more neutral and you get less bump steer. A couple quick little things I've done is right in the front I've put a washer there, and the same thing on the other side just to take a little bit of slop out. And I've also done the same thing on the rear of the vehicle, just a little washer right there to help take some of the slop out. There's still a little bit back here in the A-arm, but this hub assembly is much more snug now. I felt that this vehicle, the suspension in the rear was too stiff, so I actually went with a Team Associated gray spring. This is the long gray spring. There's two different versions. There's a short version and a long version. This is the long version. Fits the Associated short course truck, the SC5M, their two-wheel drive short course truck. And I'm also running the Associated low profile spring cups. When you buy a Team Associated kit like the B5M or the SC5M or the T5M, you get three variations of these cups. You get a low, a medium, and a tall. And these lows fit very well. They snap onto the piston shaft much tighter than the Traxxas ones did, and the spring also fits around them a little bit nicer. I did the same thing in the front, Associated caps in the front as well. I kept the front springs, they seem pretty decent, but I did move the lower shock position in a little bit just because I felt like the suspension was a little bit too stiff in the front. I may play around a little bit more with spring rate, but that was sort of my initial feeling on the vehicle. The other thing I've done is just completely removed the rear bumper. The rear bumper goes way out and comes up, and then this is above it is where your AA batteries go, and it just seemed awkward when the suspension comes down. It hits the ground way back here, so I just eliminated that and just put a couple of plastic washers in there to take up the gap. So those are some quick, easy things I've done with the vehicle. So that's where the vehicle is currently, and I'll show you what I am going to be installing in it today. First up, I'm going to be upgrading the servo saver to the Kimbrough black servo saver. This is a high tension spring servo saver. The dimensions on it are very, very close to the stock Rustler servo saver. This is actually just a little bit shorter by about maybe a millimeter or two, but I don't think it should affect it. Not 100% sold on it. I mean, I may even want to just go to like an aluminum servo horn and just eliminate a servo saver, but at any rate, I'm going to be going with this, and this is from Kimbrough, and it's part number 201, and they call this their mid-size servo saver. To go along with the servo saver, I'm going to be upgrading the steering servo because it's pretty slow in its plastic gear. This is kind of my go-to servo. It's the Savox 1258 TG. I run this in all my 10 scale stuff, and I love this servo. A lot of times I get the black edition. It's like $5 or $6 extra. It's all black, looks cool, and the wires coming off of it are a little bit nicer, and they're also black. This is the Savox 1258 TG. Very powerful, very fast servo. Runs on 6 volts. Continuing on with electronics, I'm going to be eliminating the AA pack, and I'll be using a LiPo for the receiver and servos. This is EcoPower, which is AMain's brand. This is a 2S LiPo, and I got this on a clearance item from AMain. It was like $4. 1000 milliamps. And then what I'll need to do with this is, because it's 7.4 volts, I can't hook it up direct or I'm going to burn out my servos. So I'm going to be running that into the Castle external BEC. This is a programmable BEC. You can hook it up to a Castle link and then plug it into your computer and set the output voltage. So I'll program it to 6 volts. So the LiPo will run into this, get knocked down to 6 volts, so it'll go into the receiver and then run to the 2 servos. Next on the list is a fuel filter. This is a fuel filter made by Dynamite, DYN2027. It's kind of got a cool aluminum look to it. Well, it is aluminum. And then it also has a little plastic mounting bracket as well. So the stock tires and wheels that come on this vehicle are actually a little bit oversized for a true stadium truck. The wheels that come with the Nitro Sport are 2.8 inch tire or wheels, and a true stadium truck is supposed to have 2.2 inch wheels. So I'm going to be going with a wheel from RPM. The front wheel has bearings that you pop in and then it slides over the shaft. The rear ones are 12mm hex. So these are 2.2 inch stadium truck wheels. Here are the part numbers for the front and rear wheels. The front wheels are part number 82072 and the rear wheels are part number 82062 by RPM. And last but not least, I'm going to be replacing the body. This is the J Concepts. It's designed for the associated T5M number 0290. And the reason I selected this body is because it's for the T5M, and the T5M is a mid-motor vehicle. So with the mid-motor vehicles, it puts the shock tower towards the rear of the vehicle, whereas a rear motor, the shock tower tends to be up a little bit farther. So these cutouts work well to fit over the rear shock towers. And the other thing I like about this body is there's a fair amount of room in here. The body kind of comes up high, and there's a decent amount of room back here for the motor. So I fit everything when it was clear, and right now it's got some liquid mask on it and a coat of paint. I'm still in the process of finishing this body up, but it fits very well. As you can see, there's a lot of room in there. Just made a little cutout for the exhaust. Maybe before I post this video, I'll have a chance to finish painting the body so you can see what it looks like. So that is it for the parts I have currently that I'm going to be installing. I have to order a set of tires for it yet. AMain's currently out of stock. I'm probably going to go with the Proline whole shots in the rear and maybe the J Concept carvers up front. Haven't totally decided yet on tire selection. So that's where I'm going with this vehicle. Right now I'm going to install the parts, I'll get the electronics in and show you how everything came out. Alright, I've painted the body and I've installed all the components that I talked about in the beginning of the video. The only thing I'm waiting on is the tires for the RPM wheels, but everything else is done. So this is my attempt at a paint job on it. I've progressively getting a little bit better at painting bodies, slowly but surely. Still doing it with a rattle can. I don't have an airbrush kit. Just went with some of the colors I have on my other cars. Try to go with the matching fleet. So all of the parts went in very well. I was able to lay out my electronics right in the center of the vehicle here, with the LiPo battery, the Castle BEC tucked next to it. It's able to fit the receiver in front of the LiPo pack, and then put the transponder all the way in the front. Sort of ran all my wires around to the back, and then actually just glued this connector right to the shock tower, since I don't have the rear bumper on anymore. The servo went in nicely. The servo saver is a perfect fit. So I'm really happy with the way everything turned out. I have done the break-in of the motor, and the only thing I really noticed as far as what I had changed with the springs, it seemed like the front was a little too soft, so I moved them back out to the outer hole and then put in a spacer there to raise the front ride height a little bit. Just under a hard turn, the back end wanted to kind of whip around too quickly. So we'll give that a shot next time. I still have some tuning to do with it once I get it out on the track. Put a little zip tie here for quick, easy operation of the fuel cap. Just ran the battery lead to a connector here so you can disconnect the battery, and then you can also turn it on and off with the switch in the back. Very responsive servo. So that wraps it up for my Traxxas Sport project. Just need to glue up the tires when they come in and wait for opening day at the outdoor track. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.